Imagine getting your hands on like a master chef's secret recipe book. You open it up and you're expecting this list of ingredients for a meal, but instead you find the ingredients for an entire country's cultural identity.
Oh, I love that analogy. It's pretty much exactly what we're looking at today.
Right. So today's source material for this deep dive is an internal document, and it's titled Iraq Research Notes Group. And the thing is, it is not your standard dry history textbook.
No, not at all. It's actually a creative brainstorming blueprint. It was designed to help write a song or maybe a concept album about the cities of Iraq.
Yeah, which is just such a wild way to look at a place. We aren't looking at, war statistics or just a timeline of political events. We are looking at the raw sensory data.
Like the texture of daily life.
Exactly. The street slang, the scent of the river, the rhythm of the local drums. It's all this data that an artist uses to map out the actual soul of Iraq.
And it really completely reframes how you process geopolitical information. I mean, when someone is tasked with writing music about a place, they can't just copy and paste an encyclopedia entry.
Yeah, nobody wants to listen to an encyclopedia.
Right. They have to figure out, why people wear what they wear or what they sing about when they're heartbroken, and how the actual physical geography shapes their survival.
So for you listening, this deep dive is really the ultimate shortcut to understanding the complex, super multi-layered identity of Iraq. Because, the conflict-heavy headlines we always see on the news, they really only scratch the surface.
We miss the everyday humanity of it all.
They totally do. So we're going to travel through 5 distinct regions today, seeing them through the eyes of this artist. And our mission is to decode these snapshots. We want to see how sensory details build a much deeper, more accurate understanding of a place than any traditional textbook ever could.
And, one thing that becomes blatantly obvious right away in these notes is that geography is destiny.
Oh, 100%.
The food people eat, the instruments they gravitate toward, the way they build their homes, none of these are random choices. They are direct responses to the land itself and the history that land holds.
Well, let's test that theory by starting where, basically, civilization itself began, along the water.
The Tigris and the Euphrates.
Yes, exactly. These aren't just rivers. They act as, the main veins of the country. And those rivers heavily define our first 2 cities. You've got the ancient capital of Baghdad and then the southern port city of Basra. Let's start with Baghdad.
Sure.
The notes instantly hit you with this incredible sense of weight. The Tigris is the lifeline of a city that carries the legacy of the Abbasid Caliphate and the legendary House of Wisdom.
Which was just this massive global hub for math, science, philosophy.
Right. But then that intellectual peak is immediately juxtaposed against some truly incredible historical trauma.
Yeah, the notes make a big point of emphasizing the Mongol siege. That was back in 1258. And the legend is that the river ran black with the ink of all the destroyed books and red with blood.
Wow, just the imagery there is so heavy.
It is. And then you fast forward to the modern era, and the notes impartially cover the Iraq War from 2003 onward. So the artist is capturing this immense historical burden. There's actually a lyric idea jotted down in the margins here.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. From wisdom's halls to ashes, still the city breathes.
Exactly. It distills Baghdad's story down to the cycle of destruction, followed by really profound, enduring resilience.
And the sensory details they pull out to represent that resilience are fascinating. Like, to capture the sound of Baghdad, the notes point to the oud.
The stringed instrument, right? Similar to a lute.
Yeah. But the description in the note says the strings cry like the Tigris at night.
Oh, wow.
Right. It tells you that the music is inherently melancholic. It carries the weight of those sieges and those wars. But then you look at the food. The signature dish mentioned is masgouf.
Oh, the grilled river fish.
Yeah, it's seasoned and slow grilled around an open wood fire, literally right on the riverbank. You can just picture it, the smoke coming off the Tigris, the firelight hitting the faces of people drinking that strong, sweet tea.
It's a community finding solace in these ancient shared rituals.
Exactly.
And that melancholic weight you mentioned with the oud, it's also deeply embedded in the classical Iraqi maqam music that the blueprint talks about.
Maqam, I don't think I'm super familiar with that.
So maqam isn't just a standard musical genre. It's a highly emotional, super poetic system of singing. It deals with heavy themes, love, exile, longing.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and it requires this immense vocal mastery. And you hear echoes of this classical tradition, even in modern Iraqi pop culture, like artists like Kadim al-Sahir, who is massively popular.
Right, blending the deep poetry with the modern stuff.
Exactly.
But what's interesting is, despite all that heavy, formal history, The notes do this really sharp pivot to the street
Oh,
energy.
the slang section.
Yes. The everyday slang you'd hear walking down a bustling street in Baghdad, it kind of acts as a social counterbalance to all the heavy history. Words like Ahlan wassalan, which means welcome, Yalla, let's go, Habibi, my friend, or my dear.
Right, and those aren't just casual throwaway greetings. In this context, they represent a fiercely hospitable social fabric. It's the glue holding a sometimes fractured city together.
It shows that Baghdad isn't just this solemn museum of past empires. It's highly social, it's family-oriented, and it just has this relentless forward momentum.
Definitely. But, there is an interesting tension in the document here.
How so?
Well, the notes position Baghdad as the definitive cultural and intellectual capital, right?
Yeah.
The House of Wisdom, the elegant Maqam music. But then when we move our focus down the river, down to where the Tigris and Euphrates meet at the Shatt al-Arab waterway, we hit Basra.
The southern port city.
Right. And the notes for Basra reveal influences that seem vastly broader.
Yeah, that's a great point. If Baghdad is the center of the world, why does Basra feel like it has this much more diverse, globalized pulse?
It really comes down to the fundamental mechanics of being a port city. I mean, Baghdad is the inner sanctum, the administrative heart. But Basra is the front door to the outside world.
The Venice of the East, right. That's what they used to call it.
Exactly, because of its network of canals. Basra is where the wealth of the country meets the ships, coming in from the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. A port city simply cannot be insular. It relies entirely on a constant, fluid exchange of goods and people.
Which totally explains the distinct aesthetic the artist noted for Basra. I mean, instead of these heavy stone monuments, you have these beautiful old houses with
The
shanashil.
wooden balconies.
Yeah, these intricately carved wooden balconies that lean out over the water. And it's not just for looks, there's a functional mechanism behind it. Those balconies were designed to catch the humid river breezes and cool the homes in a really sweltering coastal climate.
Form-following function.
Right. And visually, the notes describe these massive groves of date palms and water buffalo just wandering in the nearby marshlands. It feels completely distinct from the capital.
And the demographic makeup is equally distinct. Basra's population has a deep Arab heritage, of course, but centuries of maritime trade have woven in significant Persian and African influences.
Which creates a totally unique cultural fingerprint.
Yeah, and you see it everywhere. You see it in their massive love for football. You see it in their reverence for historical local writers like Al-Jahiz.
And you definitely hear it in the music.
Oh, absolutely.
The blueprint for Basra leaves behind the classical maqam of Baghdad, and it highlights Khaliji music.
Right, the Gulf style.
Yeah, it carries a heavy Gulf influence. It's driven by these polyrhythmic folk songs that were originally sung by sailors and pearl divers and river workers. The music literally mimics the physical labor of the port and the crashing of the waves.
It's music built for movement and trade.
Exactly. It reflects a city that is constantly interacting with foreign tides. So, Basra thrives on this open door policy to the world. But when we look at the research notes for the Western Desert,
Yeah, shifting gears here.
big time. Specifically looking at the city of Fallujah and the wider Anbar province. Out there, that openness would literally get you killed. The cultural blueprint flips from fluidity to strict tribal survival.
It's a dramatic transition. We leave the wetlands and enter a really harsh, unforgiving landscape. Now, the Euphrates River does still cut through it, but the defining characteristics of Anbar are the sand and the tribe.
Right.
The notes emphasize deeply rooted Sunni Islamic traditions, but the ultimate governing force on the ground is the ashar, the tribal identity. In an environment that vast and punishing societal order is mostly managed by tribal councils, which are known as majlis.
And the visual language the artist uses in the blueprint shifts dramatically here to reflect that environment. Like, the clothing isn't just about tradition, it's literal survival gear.
Right, the dishdasha and the keffiyeh.
Yeah, the men wear those flowing dishdasha robes and the keffiyeh headscarf, and it's held securely by an egal cord. It's all specifically to protect against the severe sun and these brutal sandstorms.
And the imagery the notes focus on is so striking. Camels, falcons, and then that rhythmic Dabki-style dancing at weddings.
Oh yeah, where the men stand shoulder to shoulder, just stamping the ground together in unison.
It projects so much strength and solidarity.
Well, and it's a region that has been profoundly shaped by conflict, which requires exactly that kind of solidarity.
Definitely. And the document neutrally points out some very recent historical scars. It highlights the intense Battle of Fallujah in 2004, and then the Anbar Awakening between 2006 and 2008.
Which was a massive turning point.
It was. The awakening wasn't just some military maneuver. It was a huge sociological shift where those tribal councils, the Malays, leveraged their collective power to turn against insurgency forces.
The songwriter's note for this region gave me chills, honestly. It says, "Concrete remembers what history tries to forget."
That is a powerful line.
Isn't it? You can almost visualize these buildings riddled with bullet holes that have been plastered over, and they're housing people who still carry the psychological weight of those battles. But there's another lyric idea in this section that really stopped me in my tracks.
Which one was that?
It says, "Bread before questions, honor before breath." And, we often frame Middle Eastern hospitality as this quaint moral virtue, right? Like people just being nice.
Right, just being polite to guests.
Yeah. But in this specific desert environment where the summer heat can genuinely be lethal, isn't offering water or bread before asking a stranger's name actually just a brutal calculation of mutual survival?
That is exactly it. And it fundamentally shifts how you understand desert sociology.
Yeah.
I mean, when you live in a geographically hostile landscape and centralized government institutions are far away or maybe non-existent, the tribe, the sheiks, and these strict social codes become your only safety net. This code of honor, known as Sharaf, it dictates that you absolutely must protect your guests. Denying someone shelter or water in the deep desert is tantamount to a death sentence.
So it's not about being polite. It's life or death.
Exactly. Your standing, your honor, and ultimately your own family's safety are tied entirely to your ability to provide and protect. If you break that code, you lose the protection of the community. And out there, if you lose that, you cannot survive.
That really strips away the whole Hollywood romanticization of the desert, It gets right down to the grim reality of navigating a harsh world. And it gives so much depth to another observation in the document about the people of Anbar.
The one about heroes.
Yeah. No heroes, just men choosing sides of survival. And the artist noted that the date palms in Anbar stand like survivors in silence. It's like the landscape and the people just mirror each other's resilience.
It's incredible. And then, as we move from that western desert up into the north, the survival mechanic shifts again, this time from the tribe to the land itself. And the cultural map is completely redrawn.
We're heading into the steppe grasses and the mountains now.
Right, up into Kirkuk and Erbil.
Yeah.
And suddenly we encounter new languages, a very strong Kurdish identity, and this recurring motif that just completely dominates the northern notes.
Fire.
Fire, yes.
Let's examine Kirkuk first. The notes call it a microcosm of Iraq, because it is this extremely complex, densely woven, multi-ethnic mix. You've got Arabs, Kurds, Turkmen, and Assyrians all living together.
You see that blending in the sensory details, right?
Totally. The food, for one, like these meat and bulgur dumplings called kuba, and then the Turkmen folk music, which is driven by this really heavy beat of the daf drum, and then the piercing wail of the zurna.
The wind instrument.
Yeah,
It
it represents this collision of different cultures living right shoulder to shoulder.
But Kirkuk's defining historical turning point, the thing that fundamentally changed the trajectory of the entire country, happened in 1927. The oil was discovered in a site called Baba Gugur, which translates to Father of Fires, because there are these natural gas fires seeping up right through the rock, and they have literally been burning continuously for thousands of years.
Eternal flames. It's such a staggering image. And then, just a short distance away, you have Erbil, or Hawler, as it's known in Kurdish.
Right.
Erbil sits inside the autonomous Kurdistan region, and its historical timeline is, well, it's almost difficult to comprehend. The city boasts over 6,000 years of continuous human habitation.
6 millennia.
Yeah, radiating outward from this massive, elevated, ancient citadel right in the middle of the city.
And just to contextualize that timeline for a second, Erbil was a bustling, functioning city, while the Assyrian Empire, the Persian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire all rose to immense global power and then eventually collapsed all around it. And the citadel remained occupied through it all.
Which explains the fierce pride in that endurance. You see it in the Kurdish identity that the blueprint highlights, like the traditional shell shapik clothing.
Yeah.
And the Govan line dancing, where everyone links hands in this unbreakable chain.
And the language completely changes here on the street.
Yeah, you hear slaw for hello and spaz for thank you. But, and I love this part, the notes make a point to mention that Erbil is absolutely not stuck in the past.
Oh, definitely not.
There is this massive, thriving, modern pop culture scene led by artists like Shivan Purware and Helly Love. They blend those ancient roots with super contemporary beats, The songwriter nailed it with this one line. Old soul city, but the Wi-Fi strong.
I love that. It perfectly illustrates a society where tradition and modernity aren't in conflict at all. They operate simultaneously.
I do want to focus on this fire motif, though, because looking at the notes, it almost feels like a contradiction.
How so?
Well, in Kirkuk, you have the eternal oil flames of Baba Gugur. The notes describe the city as being fueled by fire, but then over in Erbil, fire shows up in the Kurdish New Year celebration, Nowruz, which happens in March.
Right.
And the central tradition of Nowruz involves crowds of people literally jumping over roaring bonfires. So it feels like in Kirkuk, fire is a commodity that generates tension, but in Erbil, fire is this completely untethered symbol of cultural survival. Am I reading that right?
That is a highly accurate read. It's really fascinating how the exact same element serves entirely different cultural functions here. In Kirkuk, the father of fires represents an extractive resource. Oil brought immense wealth, sure, but the notes detail how it also brought deep territorial conflict, ethnic tension, and severe political division over who actually controls the ground that it burns on.
Right.
So fire there is fuel, and it is frequently destructive.
While the Nowruz fire in Erbil seems to serve the exact opposite purpose.
Exactly. The Nowruz fire is this ancient symbol of purification. Leaping over the flames represents burning away the darkness and the hardship of winter. It is a declaration of renewal, of freedom, and of the survival of a distinct Kurdish cultural identity.
Wow.
I mean, despite thousands of years of conquering empires trying to extinguish their culture, they light the fires every single spring to prove they are still there. So one fire divides over resources, and the other fire unites through a shared identity.
That dichotomy perfectly sets up the final piece of this document. At the very end of these research notes, one of the contributors, someone named Kenny, left a final note for the songwriter who's going to eventually turn this blueprint into an album.
In the advice in Kenny's note, I mean, it completely transcends songwriting. It's really a framework for how anyone should approach understanding a foreign culture.
So Kenny writes, "You're not just writing a song, you're building a cultural system in lyrics. Keep it balanced. Honor complexity, don't oversimplify conflict. Highlight resilience, not just struggle. Show unity without ignoring differences."
Honor complexity is really the ultimate takeaway here. You know, when we consume information about a country solely through the lens of political news reports or dry encyclopedia entries, we flatten the reality of the people living there.
We totally do.
We reduce thousands of years of deep human experience to, like, two-dimensional data points.
Yeah, we miss the masgouf cooking on the riverbank while the oud plays in Baghdad. We miss the functional brilliance of those Shana shale balconies catching the breeze down in Basra. We miss the profound sociological truth that hospitality in the Anbar Desert is a strict matter of life and death. And we completely miss the roaring bonfires of Nowruz signaling survival in Erbil.
The document proves that to genuinely understand a place, you must look for the sensory inputs. You have to ask what the air smells like, or what rhythm the dock workers move to, or what words people use to greet a stranger in the street. The real culture lives in those details, not in the textbooks.
We started this deep dive by comparing these notes to a master chef's secret recipe book, basically a cultural blueprint for a country halfway across the world. But for you listening, let's turn that lens inward for a moment. Think about your own hometown. If a songwriter were handed a blank notebook to map out the cultural identity of the place you grew up, what would the lyric angles be? What is the signature local food that instantly smells like home? What are the unwritten rules of survival, the local myths, and the everyday street slang that make up the unique cultural system of your own life? What is your recipe?